My name's Chris Siggety. I'm lead producer on Starcraft 2. Prior to that, it was Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3: The Frozen Throne. Starcraft 2 is a reimagining and a recapturing the magic of Starcraft, the original game. There's a couple reasons behind why we made the decision to do Starcraft 2 at the time we did. One thing was the development team that was available. We talked at length with the people on the team about what they were interested in doing, and that came up at the time, and that was actually several years ago. Another thing was actually technology. For us, we wanted to recapture the magic of Starcraft in massive battles, massive armies, large numbers of units on screen at the same time, while still having this sort of visual quality that we wanted to hit, and we felt like we were there from a technological standpoint. So from our perspective, it was right time, right place, and an interested team that wanted to work on it. As far as the differences between Starcraft 2 and Warcraft 3, it was actually a conscious decision with Warcraft 3 to kind of separate the things we'd established in original Starcraft with Warcraft 3. We wanted hero-centric play, stack-centric play, much more micromanagement out on the battlefield, a lot less resource management and that sort of thing back in your towns. And now with Starcraft 2, we're consciously making the decision to, diverge both games. We have Starcraft 2 going back to the roots of Starcraft, massive units. For the most part, if a unit dies here or there, it's not the end of the game. And then again, on the resource model, we wanted to go back to that. A lot more important. We're not going to, 5 peons on a mine is not going to be the answer. You need to sort of manage and make sure you have the right number of gatherer or worker units that are bringing in your resources and that sort of thing. So that was a conscious decision to sort of separate out the two different game types and worlds and universes and make them distinctly different. When we set out to make Starcraft 2, we actually did set down some guidelines, and they were just roughly guidelines that, we are going to keep some of the old originals. There's going to, what unit could we not live without? Also, even if we decided we couldn't live without it, what would we potentially do to make it different and make the dynamics different in Starcraft 2? It's an interesting dilemma, and we just play with it all the time, throwing out units and changing things constantly. It's an examination of each unit. We look at it, we give it some thought, see how it would work if we were to do it in the classic way. We first started, to be honest, with Starcraft Classic. We just put it in the game, looked at it, and started playing that way in our new engine. And then we just started upgrading things and playing with things and moving things around. As far as why not a fourth race, that was a conscious decision. We played with the idea. There are ideas out there, but for us, we felt like one of the strongest points of the original Starcraft was the diversity of the races and the distinct differences between them. But even though that was there, we felt like we could really play up and even increase that diversity and make it something that is really even overly emphasized in this. It's the sort of thing we want to do and continue to accentuate those differences between them. So it was a conscious decision not to add a fourth race and instead, add that diversity. Kerrigan, Raynor, a few others will be returning, and we are going to continue the story because we think there's a lot more there to say. But as far as single player goes, we do have some really ambitious plans and some things that I think people will be really excited about, but we're not prepared to talk about it at this point. So as far as multiplayer and kind of backing it up and trying to ensure that Starcraft 2 is a game that caters to that, it's kind of at the core philosophy of Blizzard. As far as we're very tied into esport, we're very tied into competitive gameplay. So with Starcraft 2, we're going to try and ensure that all those things are met. We are starting at kind of a higher level, I'd say, as far as trying to ensure that we're not worrying too much about catering to the layman at this point, somebody that hasn't played at all, but that'll absolutely be something that we emphasize later. Things like command and control issues and things such as how quickly the UI responds, selection, targeting, those sorts of things are really something we spend a lot of time on. We're putting that time in now. We're still pre-internal alpha. We're going to go into internal alpha later this year. We're our own harshest critics. We have a very big company at this point that we're going to run through, and then we will eventually run through the public as well. So we know we're going to hit all those issues that deal with multiplayer up front before it's even out there really in stores for people to truly enjoy. Starcraft 2 is going to be released for the PC when it's ready. In traditional Blizzard style, we've in the past taken 3.5, 4 years to do it, and we plan to be a little bit more ambitious this time. As far as a specific date, we'll have to wait and see. We'll get into more of that in the months ahead here.